continue with the discussion of the employees and firms relations and the ethical issues with respect to it. We were discussing on the issues like employees privacy, which talks of the physical privacy of the organization of the employees, where the employees may not want the organization to have access to what they are doing and like where they are moving and so on. Regarding the social privacy, to get an organization to get a full understanding of with whom they are maintaining the social relations and to what extent, or to like get an, or they may not want to share with the organization the private thought processes of what is the emotions at a particular point of time, and how they are thinking about certain issues which comes under their psychological privacy. So these type of these are the employees' right to privacy and also information. They may not want to divulge all information about themselves and their social relationships, or the information that they may have got about certain aspect to the organization, if it is not directly required by the organization for the nature of the job. But the organization now, through its surveillance mechanism, may have access to many of such informations, and may have an access to what the employees are doing, how they are behaving, to whom they are trying to maintain a social contacts and all, through this process of surveillance, which again opens up a domain for discussion, which is electronic privacy and data protection. So with the more advent of technology in place and internet connections and all, so people are establishing relationships with people inside and outside the organization based on maybe emails and chats and other type of things. So computer may work as a surveillance mechanism also, like what was the time you were there in the organization, and what was your pace of the work, how long were you using the net, have you used the internet and email during organizational time and all. So this is also to certain extent to what the debate is about, like do employees have any electronic privacy and not, like what is the issue of privacy in situations which you call data privacy also, because data is now getting hacked so much. So how to protect our data so that it is not like misused or get like exposure publicly, the sort of data that we don't want to get it exposed to. So these data protection and ethical issues of it with respect to the organization, and to know how to protect the data, what are the mechanisms available to it, so that we have a feeling of safety, in the sense like it is not a private part of the self that it's information which is very private to our own self, and which is more linked with maybe nowadays every transactions like financial transactions, everything are done more electronically. So what is the safety in the how these transactions are getting done otherwise, if and what is the degree of the data protection given otherwise, this very crucial information, if it gets public, then it may have a major impact on the life of the people. So these type of things are very, very important when you're talking of where data gets saved and processed electronically. How strong is the process of data protection? It is a very important part of concern for the organization. When you're talking of due processes and layoffs, so here we are focusing on maybe the employees' right to work. And while focusing on employees' right to work, if we take like the yes, layoff is a decision which becomes unavoidable due to certain circumstances, then ethical considerations in this layoff is that whether in the process of downsizing is that whether the right to know of the employees have been respected or not, whether they were informed well ahead of the actual point of time the redundancy of their job is about to come. And second is what is the compensation packages received by the employees when they are laid off. So if these two conditions are taken care of or not taken care of will determine whether the layoff was ethical or not done in an ethical way. Means if the due processes with respect to respecting the right to know of the employees and giving them a proper compensation package based on the calculation of the harm done to them with comparison with the organization's effort taken to increase their employability, of helping to find some job elsewhere, all these when compared will try to determine whether the layoff was ethical or not ethical. When we are talking of the right to form association, so here is the recognition that the employees are not just resources, but they should have a certain degree of influence on how they do their work, because they are rational human beings who have a thinking power, and because they have the thinking power they can always add value to the process by understanding how it can be done, maybe in a better way also. So they also have certain degree of influence on the job environment and company goals and on the task that has been given to them. These talks of the right to respecting this right of the employees to contribute to the task environment and the company goals is called the right to participation. So that right to participation can be in the form of financial participation, can be in the form of operational participation. So financial participation is in the way when the employees when the organization allows employees to share the ownership or income of the corporation. And when you're talking of the operational participation, so it takes various dimensions like delegation of responsibility from the top person to the bottom, then sharing of information with all the employees of the organization. But here again a crucial decision is what kind of information should be shared to what all level in which manner. So this could be a question of debate. So consultation with the employees of the organization regarding how to reach a particular organizational goal, to co-determination where the management and the employees together try to determine what should be the goals of the organizations, which they mutually accept, and they define their contribution in the reaching that goal of the organization. So this co-determination also, like when we are focusing from like sharing of information to consultation to co-determination, so all these stages can be discussed in light with the role of trade unions in the organization, and maybe changing roles of trade unions also, where there is a shift in the roles from the trade unions being in a conflicting relationship with the organization to get the benefits for the employees to a cooperative position in the organization, where the consultation and co-determination is there, where the management and the representative body of the employees, as the trade union, jointly decide how the organization is going to flourish, and they, like mutual partners, try to fix up the goals for each and the responsibilities of each in making the organization's processes a success, reach its goal in a successful way. And then when it is done, each gets its own share of like benefits from the success of the organization. So trade unions changing role can also be discussed with respect to the operational participation with respect to the organizations. Next important thing that we discuss with the ethical issues in the employee firm relation is the working conditions. So like right to a healthy and safe working condition is one of the very primary first ethical concerns for employees. So there is a dense like network of now regulations which like maybe force employers to give a good working condition to its employees. But however, the main concern here is there could be a set of regulations. Main concern is there of the enforcement of that acts and the implementation through the various practices within the organization, so that the good working condition is provided to the employees. So ethical issues could be like excessive working hours, and so excessive working hours which may lead to certain which may affect the physical and mental and social health of the employee, and the balance in it, and also maybe the presenteeism, where the employees, in spite of like being unwell, continues with the being present in the organization, so that actually later on it hampers the not only the productivity of the organization, but it also has a major effect on the health of the employees also. So presenteeism is a major concern, and flexible working hours are also what would be the nature of working hours, whether it is well defined or not, what are the conditions related to it, what are the organizational measures taken to provide with that flexible working hours, does it affect the performance of the individual and the compensation that the individual are getting. So all these type of questions have to be answered to understand the ethical concerns issues related to this excessive working hours, presenteeism, and the flexible working pattern. So when you talk, just a relook into excessive work hours is thought to impact employees' overall state of physical and mental health. Presenteeism is a phenomena of being at work when you should be at home due to illness or even just for rest and recreation. Means you're dragging yourself to the work because you don't want to get marked absent or lose certain benefits which is there with the which deals with you being present there for how many days in the organization and what work you are doing. Flexible working patterns. So this may have something in reality like non-standard work relationships, because it is a flexible in nature, so there is nothing of a permanent full-time job sort of. So it's a self-employment, part-time work, temporary work, and it is a sort of like less secure legal status, and it could be a potential for increased insecurity, lower pay, and exclusion from training and other benefits, and poorer working conditions. So what is actually you are gaining, the employee is gaining by flexible working conditions, and what actually the employers, it's not what they are professing but what actually they are doing, the practices by the flexible working conditions, and what benefits they are trying to avoid to give to the employees by taking a guise under flexible working conditions have to be evaluated properly before we come to the conclusion whether it is ethical or unethical in nature. Another important aspect of ethical relationships of the firm and employee relationship is that of fair wages. So the basis for determining fair wages commonly expectations placed on the employee and that their performance towards that goal. So we have to understand there is, when you're talking of expectations placed on the employee, how are these for determining the ethical dilemmas with related to it, how are these expectations formed, what role definition has been done, how it is connected with the overall performance of the organization, so whether it is a well defined role or not, so whether the expectations that have been formed are clearly linked with the job positions and the expectations are realistic in nature or not. So these are needs to be taken care of, and also what if done will translate the expectation into the performance, and how this performance will be related to the overall goal of the organization, how it is related to your compensation payment. These have to be worked out properly. So the problems that may arise for performance related pay, so is one of the risk, like the salaries and benefits may become less secure, because if it is a performance related pay, if you're not, according to the decision of the organization, if you're not performing well, then your salaries and benefits may become less secure. And representation, so if somebody is in the process of able to bargain well, then that person may be able to extract more benefit from the organization. So we have to understand, like for this, like the person is this individualized bargaining positions, or the feeling of threat, or like the risk, like my basic salary is going to reduce if I'm not able to perform well, to take care of these issues. What are the expectations? What, if done, will lead to proper performance, and what exactly is meant by performance? Like, if these things levels are reached, then only it will lead to we considering it performance or not. So these matrices have to be clearly defined. Otherwise, if it is hazy here, then this performance related pay may give rise to many ethical issues. Next, we'll discuss the freedom of conscience and freedom of speech in the workplace. Like, it is the rights of the employees to voice about one's own opinion. Like, the government gives this rights when you're talking of in the voting rights, ballot boxes and all. So this talks of the right of the person to put his right of the employees to put his or her own views regarding how certain things are functioning in the organization, and how, whether like it is done in an ethical way or not, or how it can be improved also. The present processes can be improved also. So whether they have been given a chance to speak their mind, their own values regarding the processes followed in the organization, and whether the organization encourages it or discourages this freedom of speech and freedom of conscience. So like sometimes it may happen like the related, if people are speaking related to confidential matters with the firms, maybe accounting plans, R&D techniques and all. So people will find it's in the best interest of their own self to adhere to the company policies and practices. So in some cases it may be where the employees may feel like certain rights are not respected, or certain things are not done properly in the organization. So where they are trying to speak the freedom or to express their voice, one such case is that of whistleblowing, and it includes sometimes considerable risk if the organization does not have a supporting mechanism to allow this whistleblowing to happen, or does not protect the rights of the whistleblowers. And also, if there could be ethical issues regarding the whistleblowing also, means to whom you are raising your voice first. So are you trying to raise your concern first within the organization and then following the process as given in the grievance handling, or you're voicing your voice immediately to the outside environment, outside the organization, without trying to see whether it gets heard inside or not. And so what are the so that is again the responsibilities of the whistleblower. Correspondingly, the duties of the organization to take care of the whistleblower so that their voice is heard and the issues that they have cited are being taken care of, because ultimately that results in the improvement of the business processes and the outcomes and how things are getting done in the organization. Another important right, of course, is the right to work, and it is like every individual have the right to work under same equal conditions in exerting this right. So this is one of the right of like where the business house, maybe through their mm, employment policies or the nature of business that's been done, may exclude certain portion of the mm, potential employees present in that society from getting job within your organization. So that is, so even if they're qualified, otherwise equally same in all other respect and competencies, maybe the job conditions that you have created within the organization may restrict some people to get employment with you, and that speaks of whether you are respecting the right to work of all the employees or not. So right to work should result in every individual facing the equal conditions in exerting this right. So it right to work in a business context cannot mean that every individual has the right to be employed for your conditions, but yes, definitely if other conditions remaining same and they otherwise could have applied for your organization, you creating certain special conditions, and if it hampers this right, then that needs to be taken care of. So, and it is also like whether it speaks of whether you are discriminating based on certain qualities, whether which are not required by the job. So we have three parts to it, like it is the right to work is a fundamental human right. The right to work in a business context cannot mean that every individual has a right to be employed for your particular organization, but for the job that or the nature of work that you are speaking of. So in that case, if otherwise competent for the nature of job, then by creating certain special conditions, you may not restrict individuals from applying their right to being employed with your organization if that condition is not directly related to the nature of the job. So this is called the right to work should result in every individual facing the same equal conditions in exerting this right. So you cannot create special conditions which discriminate people in exerting this right, and if these conditions are not directly related to your job conditions. Till now we were discussing some of the rights of the employees towards the organization, but correspondingly also there are certain duties of the employees towards the organization, and ethics of accepting gifts is one of those duties that we are talking of. So it depends, in some context it is accepting gifts is nothing unethical, but in some context, in some culture, it is unethical. So though there is no clear guidelines about whether to accept a gift or not to accept a gift, or when accepting a gift becomes ethical or unethical, we have certain things which listed, like the value of the gift, the purpose of the gift, the circumstances in which the gift is given, the job of the recipient of the gift, whether it gives certain benefit to the person giving the gift or not, what are the accepted local practices, what are the company policies on gifts and legal prohibitions on gifts. This will determine whether accepting a gift is ethical or not ethical in nature. We discussed about the electronic privacy and also the data security, data protection. So theft of information is also like where it includes the theft of digitized programs, musics, movies, ebook, etc., as well as trade secrets, company plans, and proprietary formula or other data. So it is theft even if the original is not taken or changed, but only copied, examined, or used without the consent of the owner, or violates the owner's right to have his or her property used as he or she chooses. So even if the theft doesn't injure the owner, so this key. But what is not theft is over here, like the wisdom that you gain from the organization. So the skills that you have gained as a part of your experience of being in the job, so that is what you can take with you, and then maybe share with the others. But there is also, this is also a very important area of discussion when you're talking of intellectual properties also. So and your tacit knowledge that you have developed from the writing a program or taking some decisions, so whether taking that away and then applying it in a different situation, whether it is ethical or not ethical, that is also a domain of discussion. The ethics of insider trading is that, so insider trading is taken to be unethical because it is a theft of information, that it gives the insider an unfair advantage of over those who do not have an access to this information. So it may have two views on like whether it is ethical or not ethical, because some people may argue like it ensures stock prices reflect the true value of the stock, so because it harms no one or it has an advantage over others in the stock market, is not wrong, because, and this is very common among expert, could be a point to defend it, but the counter argument to it has been criticized because this information is not the information of the insider but something he or she has accessed from the organization. So trading of this may have a harmful effect on the stock market and increases the cost of buying and selling the stocks, and the advantage of the inside trader is nothing similar to that of an expert, because it is based on the theft of knowledge that you have gained from inside of the organization. But the insider trading, whether it is ethical or not, varies from the perspective taken, and it is a matter of very much debate whether it is ethical or not, based on again the consequences that it has led to. So it is not very well defined whether this practice is ethical or not ethical in nature. Next we will discuss the ethical challenges of globalization in the next module. Thank you.